The first step is to give more thought and attention to people, to establish more points of contact. Let us do humanly, individually, man to man, what we are trying to do in a great big way. I was visiting the home of a famous manufacturer recently, and he took me out to his farm. He showed me his cattle. Above the head of each heifer and each cow was the pedigree. The most careful record was kept of every animal. He had a blueprint in his library at home of every one of those animals. Yet, when we began later to talk about the labor problem in his own plant, and I asked him how many of his people he knew personally, he told me, I quote his words, "Why, they are all alike to me, Mr. Babson. I don't know one from the other." Later in the evening, it was during the Christmas vacation, a young fellow drove up to the house in a fancy automobile, came in and asked for this manufacturer's only daughter in order to take her to the party. I didn't like the looks of the fellow very well. After they had gone out, I said to the father, "Who is that chap?" The father replied, "I don't know, some friend of Mary's." The father had every one of his cows blueprinted, but he didn't know the name of the man who came to get his daughter, and who didn't deliver her until 2 o'clock the next morning. That man was neglecting the human soul, both in his factory and in his home. I repeat that we have gone crazy over structures above ground. We are absolutely forgetting the greatest of our resources, the great spiritual resource upon which everything depends. How shall we develop these resources? Certainly we are not developing this great spiritual resource in the public schools. The educational system was originally founded by the church to train the children in the fundamentals of righteousness. Gradually, but constantly, we have drifted away from this goal, and today the purpose for which our schools were started has been almost entirely lost. In some states, it is now a criminal offense for a school superintendent to ask a prospective school teacher what she believes, or whether she has any religion whatever. Under these conditions, is it surprising that the spiritual resources of our children are lying dormant? Much of the prosperity of this nation is due to the family prayers which were once daily held in the homes of our fathers. To a very large extent, this custom has gone by. Whatever the arguments pro and con may be, the fact nevertheless remains that such family prayers nurtured and developed these spiritual resources to which the prosperity of the nation is due. The custom of family prayer should be revived, along with many other good New England customs, which some modern radicals may ridicule, but to which they owe all that they possess. The masses today are getting their real education from the daily newspapers. Many of these newspapers have much good material, but the great effort of the daily press is not to make producers, but rather to make consumers. The policy of the daily press is not to get people to serve, but rather to get them to buy. Not only is the larger portion of the newspapers given up to advertising, but most of this advertising is of non-essentials, if not of luxuries. With this advertising constantly before the people of the country, it is but natural that the material things should seem of greater importance. To remedy this situation is a great problem today facing the Christian businessmen of this country. What shall we do about it? The first step is to give more thought and attention to people and to establish more points of contact. Let us do, humanly, individually, man to man, what we are trying to do in a great way. Another method to develop this human resource is to give people responsibility. Moreover, we must do so if the nation is to be truly prosperous.